spend a lot of time talking about how to study or how to take tests and how to be a good student in general. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the different types of degrees and how those play out, and how learning and how studying and test taking and really anything that has to do with academia can really differ greatly, because we have students coming in that are straight out of high school. We have students that are coming into the program and entering college that have had prior degrees or partial degrees that maybe didn't finish. I have students entering their associate's degree with us that have doctorates, master's degrees. So we do see a difference with how students succeed depending on their, academic past. Obviously, those that have made it through definitely have learned from that, and they come to us with a lot of experience. But to differentiate, especially for those that are coming straight out of high school is an environment where you are provided information, you're provided homework, and everything ties directly to what you're going to be given. You regurgitate something. I teach you something, you're regurgitating things in really micro level assignments, right? So you learn something, there's a lot of work that's provided, and everything is directly connected. When you go to college, whether it be any undergrad level, whether that be an associate's or a bachelor's, there's a lot of regurgitation, especially for the first 2 years. So the first 2 years of a bachelor's can be tied pretty much to the associate's degree. So the first 2 years would be associate's level courses, and then your second 2 years of a bachelor's would be bachelor's level courses, your 300 and 400 level courses. So for both of those, there is a lot of regurgitation, but especially for those first 2 years. Now, things do not necessarily have to tie directly to what you're given. You may have assignments, you may not, but it's really, you're on your own now. And you will get things in lecture, but in that class time, those classes are designed to break things down and make things simpler. But you still need to open the book, you still need to provide resources, and on an exam where you're regurgitating, there may be information that is missing. And it's not that you weren't provided it, it's that you're assumed to know it, because everything builds upon. So if you have a prerequisite course, you take your 101 course, and next you're going to take 102. What you get in 102 is based off of the fact that you learned something in 101. And you can't compartmentalize. That's the thing. So don't just take something and say, okay, good, I got this assignment, I studied this chapter, and I can only be quizzed on exactly what I learned. Because what you're going to find is that you get that information, but in your 102 class, you need the foundation of what you learned in 101. And you're using that to build upon. So you could get essentially, you could get something on a quiz question, especially if you're in a career-based program, which obviously is where I'm coming from too, is you might get something in your last class that actually is a question that ties to something you learned your first day freshman year. Something that you've learned previously, because we're teaching you how to take a licensure exam. We're teaching you to be a professional in something, so we need to make sure that you know that information from day one, and that you never put it down. So you can't say, all right, I'm going to study chapter 1, put it away. I'm going to study chapter 2, put it away. Study chapter 3, put it away. When you study chapter 2, make sure that you're always refreshing your memory with chapter 1. When you study chapter 3, you're looking at chapter 1 and 2, but you're also looking at those previous classes. You're always looking at that previous information, and you're tying it in, and you're using it as a foundation to understand this information later on and make sense of this information later on. And that's very important. So don't forget that. Now, those first classes, so those 100 level classes, you're going to see a lot of regurgitation. We teach you something, you get what you get in lecture or in class generally, and you read the book, and your quiz questions could come from both. So again, don't just say, well, I looked at the slides, and I always love that. I just looked at the slides. Well, did you listen to the lecture? Well, I looked at your slides. So I'm glad you looked at my slides. But my slides wasn't the lecture. Did you take the slides as the basis of what we're talking about? And that helps you, and it helps me really keep on track, but that helps you to say, oh, this is what he's still referring to. He's talking about something, but this is the topic he's in, or maybe there's an image, and it's not just having that image, it's what does that image mean? What do we see in that image? And then you look at the textbook and you tie that into that. So now you have 3 pieces. You have the visual, you have whether that be a PowerPoint, whether that be the visual of, this is how to do something, and I'm demonstrating something in class. That's very important. So not everything's on the slide. Some things are physically, you need to pay attention during class because some things are physically demonstrated. So this is what it is. Or I hold up an instrument, I say, this is, this instrument. And seeing and visualizing the instrument, that's not on a slide. That is visually seen in that classroom. So you need to be able to tie all that together, take your notes, make that connection. Then you look at the textbook and you're like, all right, let me read this through. You read it through before you came to lecture. When you came in, you had a foundational knowledge. Maybe you didn't understand everything, but you read it through. So now the lecture isn't fresh information. Now lecture should be information that is tying together what you've already read. And then you come after the lecture and you now read again. And that reading again is refreshing your memory, and now things start to make sense because you're like, oh yeah, that's right, he said this. And now you read it, you read it for a foundation, you got it broken down, visualized and broken down, and then you're reading it again in order to comprehend it, and now you're getting the facts, the figures, the numbers that maybe you missed, and you're reading them and you're applying that to your long-term memory so that you will understand it. It's a repetition. That's what commits things. Your 200 level classes, those are the classes that apply what you learned in the 100 level classes. They go further. So you learned how to embalm, and then you're going to learn how to, in your 200 level classes, now we're going to teach you the difficult cases, and we're not just going to teach you the basics, we're now going to teach you how to apply it. Now if you're going on to your bachelor's, you're taking 300 level, 400 level classes, and those 300 level classes is starting to make sense of your first and your 100 and 200 level classes. And your 400 level classes are where you need to apply things a little bit more. Now, we're not in grad school yet. We're not, building things blank, but this would be like having a Lego set. Your 100 level classes is I teach you the colors of the Legos. And I show you these different pictures of Legos, and I give them names. And in that 100 level class, I'm going to give you a quiz, or I'm going to put these Legos out, and I'm going to put labels on them. And then in that 100 level class, what you're doing is you're telling me the names of those Legos. You're telling me the colors of those Legos. Then I maybe ask you questions about what they're used for, and you're going to tell me when certain types of Legos would be used. Your 200 level classes are now giving you Legos to build, but you're given very detailed blueprints, and we're going to give you we're going to give them step by step, very, very detailed, and you're just going to put together a truck or a hospital or something out of Legos. Now 300 level classes, that is where we give you more advanced Legos, right? The instructions are still just as clear, but sometimes we may skip a step because we assume, we don't tell you, okay, take the block and put the blocks together. We assume you know how to do that. So now we're now giving you more detailed instructions for a more complex set that you're building. And in this, we assume that you can figure out when you look at the picture, oh, those have to go together. We don't have to give you that instruction. We figured out that you know how to pop things together and you know how to put the, you know, the different types, the blocks and get them to adhese. And we can just give you the image to do that. Now, 400 level classes, this, again, now you're ready to graduate with your bachelor's degree. And these are the classes where we're still not making you draw the, you know, the instructions yourself. But maybe we're handing you the blocks and we're asking you to do the same thing by memory. We're now asking you to take that information and apply it. And we may be giving you a few extra things in there, right? Maybe we say, you know, you need to substitute red blocks for yellow blocks. And you're like, okay, I can do that, right? And you can substitute those. That is minor things, nothing too complicated, but you need to apply what you've learned through the first 3 levels. And you need to be able to show that you can apply it. You need to show that you understood what it is that you learned. Now we go on to master's and doctoral level. The master's level is where we ask you to draw the instructions, okay? What we do is we say that you know what a block is, you know what all of these pieces are, and we say that we need you, you know, here's all the Legos, and we need you to design a, you know, funeral home. We need you to design a crematory model, and you say, okay, and you start looking at the blocks and you start lining them up, and you say, well, if this block fits to here, and nope, that didn't work, take it apart, refix it, and as you're going along, it's like writing music, right? You play a few tunes, and that doesn't sound good, and we try another tune. You know what? I like that tune. And then you write it down on your music sheet, right? You're creating music. For any musicians, you understand that. Or, you know, artists, same thing. You paint something, you're like, that brushstroke just didn't work for me. And then what you do is you are able to try again, and you're going to get it, and then you perfect that, and then you say, all right, that brushstroke worked. So it's the same thing. So now we're applying. You don't need to redesign the wheel. We're just asking you to, you know, maybe critique it to fit the, you know, the format. So, you know, we're giving you the parts, we're giving you the information, you know what's out there, but you need to apply that information to designing something maybe for a situation. You know, again, you know, one of my backgrounds is public health, so I'm going to use that as an example, but, you know, in public health, here's all of your information you've learned. We're not regurgitating information anymore, we're building that information. You learned that information in undergrad, and then in your master's level is where now you're taking that information, you're saying, the water main broke, we have a infectious outbreak, we have these things, and you don't need to redesign or understand everything there is to know. What you need to do is know when we have a situation, this is how we apply it, and these are the factors that we have at hand. And when we have these factors at hand, how do I apply them to the situation? Because nothing pieces together, right? We have to base things off of the type of society we're dealing with public health. We have to deal with the environmental factors. We have to deal with the population. What's their type of communication? You know, do we have an elderly population, a young population? You know, are they using social media? Are they listening to the radio, the TV? What's our best way? Do they all have cell phones where we can push out a reverse 911? This is information, and we need to understand it. We can't just cookie cutter, throw things at people. You need to apply that. All right, so now the doctoral level is where we take information that we know. You have this information, but you're given a situation that doesn't fit the mold. And you need to do the research. You need to figure it out, because you're given the situation where now you have, again, something that wasn't invented. We give you those Legos, but you don't have Legos. We need you to design the Lego itself. But we need that Lego to do something very specific. It's going to be a mechanical Lego. And that Lego needs to do something that other Legos have never done before. And you need it to do exactly what we request. Okay, me reindeer. So we need it to do something that it's never done before. And you need to apply everything you know about the engineering of Legos and how plastic is made and all of those things that you've learned before, and you need to design that. And then you need to design the blueprints to go with that. And that is what brings you to that level. And maybe that's, in embalming, that is the situation that nobody ever has thought could happen, right? And you're now applying that. Or in public health, that's doing the research to discover something that's never been discovered. How do we handle a situation if we don't have the resources? How do we create a solution when we don't have all of these things at our fingertips? Let's discover the factors that we never discovered, right? I can hand you all of these things and we teach you all of this information. But are we right? We give you all this information, but the world is so complicated that we only gave you a simple solution. So let's think complex. Let's think about how do we do it properly. So that is the educational system, and how you learn and how you study is going to change over the course of your academic career, and how you apply information. You can't apply high school level learning and high school level test taking to an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's or doctorate. You just can't. You need to evolve, and you need to learn. And I will bring you more on how to study, and maybe shorter videos on some of these study techniques. So look forward to that.